All right, there we are. Now I know for sure you can hear me. Good morning. I am Coach Nikki Cates, and we are here this morning to unmask. I have something interesting to add to our conversation this morning. Um, but first, hey, happy Wednesday. You made it halfway through. Give yourself a pat on the back. Let's see here. I want to make sure. Housekeeping, I can't really monitor what's going on. Good morning. I can't really monitor what's going on here, y'all. So if you want to say something to me, hopefully I can see it. If not, send me a message. Okay? All right. So, unmask. That's what we're talking about because I created the unmask framework to use specifically for my coaching and teaching processes or training processes. Why? Because that's what God called me to. Okay. So, what is the intention of using Unmask? Using Unmask, the intention is to help you to uncover the lies about who you are, what you can do, and why you're here. Maybe that lie is even that you don't have a reason for being here, you're just here. That's a big lie. Because at any moment, second, we could be gone. Literally the blink of an eye. A millisecond, an asteroid could just drop out of the sky. I get it scientifically. There's a whole part of that needs to be discussed. But the truth is that we are fragile as beings and we could be gone like that. Okay? So the point is to maximize life. Whether you're a believer or not, most likely you want to see a certain life for yourself, or for your loved ones, or even for this country or the world as a whole. And if that is you, then that means that there are lies that you are believing, that we collectively are believing, that are hindering us from seeing that manifest in our lives personally, in the lives of those around us, and in the life of this country. So we already know that in the current state of our nation, that lies are coming to the surface. Like when I say, baby, Cat Williams was on point last year when he said that stuff was coming to light. I have seen, I know me personally, just truly seeing what people are made of, right? All of us, I'm sure, have experienced that in some way where we thought somebody was one way and really they're not. So, yeah, let's just think about that for a minute and what that's been like. Because when Cat Williams broke the internet with that prophecy, that revelation, woo, y'all. All right, let me have my first sip of coffee real quick. Oh, mm, nothing like it, y'all. Nothing like it. So, good morning. And as we move into this conversation, I just want you to remember that when you unmask something, you're removing something that is covering something else. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to uncover the deceptions of life that have told us who we are, why we are, what we are to do with our lives. Okay. I haven't been doing that. I encourage you all to share this live and invite more friends in as we're grounding our morning for the rest of our week. We are grounding. What does that mean when we say we're grounding? We're establishing a firmer foundation to stand on to get through the rest of the week. Hi, good morning. Welcome. Okay, so if we're unmasking, that means that we are uncovering something, right? Unmask. I'm taking off a mask. Now you can see my actual face. Okay? We're uncovering the truth beyond the deception. What deceptions? Y'all, we're living in deceptions every single day. Depending on who you're talking to, we're living in the biggest deception of all because we're living in a matrix. But you got to remember, if you're a believer, then you know that every single day we're encountering lies and deception and destruction in some way, that there is an opposite spirit of the one that we claim to live with and by that is aiming to destroy through lies, aiming to destroy through distortion, right? That's culture, that's society. It's our norm, okay? So unmasking is the opposite of the norm that we are given in our regular culture and society. Good morning, welcome. So I want you to remember that we are unveiling. You are unveiling when we have these sessions. Just like if we were in a coaching session one on one, or if we were in a group session or in a training session, I want you to think about what you've been believing that may not necessarily be true about who you are, why you're here, and what you're here to do. Not necessarily be true about who you are, why you're here, and what you're here to do. Because beyond contrary belief, like beyond common belief, I am more than a mother of 4 daughters. I am more than a wife. But what I've learned in coaching women is that we have a tendency to identify ourselves based off of our roles. And that's because that's what society has encouraged us to do. That's our conditioning. Okay. But that's not God's will for us. That's not who we are. It's a part of what we do, it's a part of our assignment, right? But raising our kids is not our only purpose in this world. Being a significant other and uplifting that other person is not our sole reason for being in this world. Or even if you carry a mantle for entrepreneurship like I do, or you carry a mantle for ministry, you are still more than that. Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are unmasking this morning, y'all. We are revealing lies and understanding truths. And this morning, let's see, we started with the U, which was unlearn a few weeks back. Then we moved on to the N, which was nurture. And that's what I was encouraging you to go in your phone and set 10 minutes for yourself every single day and 30 minutes for the week. And I hope if you caught that you have been doing that. You have to nurture the time and the effort and the availability that you give yourself and that you give God. Because we do it for everyone and everything else, but we tend to allow the most important aspects of who we are to fall by the wayside. Okay? So we did nurture now, and then we did master. Last week we did master, right? This week we're working on alignment. What is alignment? Okay, my friends used to call me the pivot queen because, baby, when I thought God was saying move, I'm moving. Okay, even if I was wrong. Good morning, welcome. Now, the problem with that is that I would move and I wouldn't take the time to properly assess, properly plan. I was just like, God got me, I'm moving. Shift. That's bad. It's poor stewardship. We'll put it that way. Poor stewardship, poor management, however you want to look at it, irresponsible. But when you are in alignment, y'all, alignment means that you get back in line with God's will. For instance, my businesses have shifted. Why? Because I'm back in alignment with God's will. Good morning. But what does that look like when you realign yourself? That looks like removing the lies you were believing, removing any idols that you've put above who God is, and realigning yourself with the truth of who you are, who He says you are. Because the world is not going to tell us who God says we are. The world is going to tell us who we need to be in order to keep the machine working. Okay? So, what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to uncover the truth, right? We're wanting to reveal the image of God within us, being able to see it in others, and being able to picture it in the world around us. Because I think a lot of us have lost a sense of hope in that, right? Come on, y'all. Okay. A lot of us have lost a sense of hope in seeing God in the world around us. It's difficult when it seems like the other team is winning. But the most simplest of scriptures, well, prayers in scriptures, where Jesus is telling them to pray that God's kingdom come, his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I think a lot of us have lost sight of that. And we've over spiritualized it, right? So we are unveiling, we are exposing, and we are illuminating. What do I mean by illuminating? We are illuminating how oppression works. And I'm not just talking about the isms, racism, sexism, misogyny, ableism, capitalism. We're not talking about that in this second, because trust me, I do talk about it. But we're talking about oppression from a spiritual perspective as well. Because in this country, all of us battle with an oppression of fear because we are constantly bombarded with it. But is that God's will for us? How many of us have accepted that it just is what it is and there's nothing we can do to change it? That needs to be put back into alignment with God's will for us. You see what I'm saying? I hope so. Hi, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We are talking about unmasking. We are getting back in alignment this morning. We're going to do an alignment tune up. So I want you all to be mindful that this is not about being perfect. We will never reach perfection. No one ever on this earth will reach perfection. Okay? Never. So that is not what we're aspiring to. So we have to be honest with ourselves, because guess what the biggest lies lie? Not through our administration, not through people that we see on a regular basis, not our bosses, us. We are our biggest enemies, and we tell ourselves the most lies. Facts. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. So we need to get honest with ourselves. Our choices. What are our values? How many people still don't know what their core values are? Y'all, those are your guardrails to get through life. They help you to stay on track. We don't have to over spiritualize this. If your heart is in alignment and is conditioned in alignment with God and his spirit, your core values should honor that relationship. You need to know what you stand for. Because if you don't know what you stand for, you're going to fall for anything and follow anyone. I tell this to my daughters. Again, I'm a mother of 4 beautiful, amazing, smart, talented Black women. And I have told them continually, when you don't know who you are, you become who he or whoever it is you decide to be with, you become who they want you to be. Okay? Or you become who society wants you to be, or who your industry wants or needs you to be, instead of who you genuinely are. And that's why we're constantly burned out, because we're being someone that we're not intended to be. Okay? Burnout recovery and identity alignment, those are my specializations, as well as applying that to leadership. But what I want you to understand is that unmasking, uncovering the lies, and helping us to find the right truths to live by. Y'all, who are you? Most women don't know who they are. I would beg to say most of the men in my life don't know who they are either. People don't take the time to know who they are. They just go about life and they define themselves by their performances and what they do. And that's why we wear masks. That's why we're fully armored when we go into our workplaces. So I want us to get honest with ourselves today. Okay? What kind of choices are we making? Are we making the choices we want to make, or that we sense on the inside of ourselves that we need to make? Because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I went a big portion of my adult life so far ignoring what I knew I needed to do. I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Get married when I know on the inside of myself I'm not supposed to be getting married to that person at that time. Taking that job, even though I know without a shadow of a doubt on the inside of myself, my body is like, run. We are we have conditioned ourselves to not pay attention to ourselves. And I said this last week and the week before and the week before. Nobody is gonna do it for you, y'all. No one is gonna do it for you. Okay? All right. So, if you don't know your core values, if you go to my link in my bio, there is a 5-day unmasked reflection guide that will help walk you through the process of figuring out your core values. And you also have some assessments and journaling prompts in there to help you to go through this process of reconnecting with who you are. And let's talk about the spiritual aspect real quick. If we over spiritualize figuring out what our identity is, that's also not the best way. Because yes, we are who God says that we are, and we speak his word over our lives and over ourselves and over those around us. However, you are also uniquely wired. He uniquely wired you to be who you are. And if you don't understand that wiring, you're not going to understand how to move in this world. So you need to know. Okay. So that reflection guide is in there. I think I have it set for like $2, y'all. So yes, go figure out your unique wiring. Realign yourself with who God says that you are. When you do those two things, you become, excuse me, you become unmasked. Because no one else in this world, no principality, no power, no person, no construct, no industry can tell you who you are and why you're here. And when you have that type of clarity, it becomes way easier to move through life. And you're not constantly in these cycles of exhaustion and burnout. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you. Because this is the truth. When you're out of alignment, that's when things are super heavy. It feels like you're carrying not an elevator, an elephant on your back, constantly in stress, constantly going through cycles of burnout. And I want to remind y'all that burnout is not something that just happens. There's a process to it. Okay, you become frustrated about something or someone. You don't address that thing. And most likely it's going against your core values, and that's why it's bothering you so much. If you're aware of your values and you understand that, and you say, okay, how do I get back in alignment here? You don't deal with the frustration. And then you find yourself stressed about it. And you still don't listen to your body. You still don't listen to the spirit within you. You still don't pay attention. And what happens? It begins to take over your whole, it's just all consuming. That's what burnout is. Burnout is all consuming. You're not just tired. You're not just misaligned. You are consumed with stress and depression and anxiety. You are consumed with confusion. And we know that scripture, God is not the author of confusion. So I want y'all to keep that in mind. You need to start paying attention. Okay? All right. Welcome. Good morning. Hello. Remember, when you start feeling that weight and that confusion and that fogginess, y'all, there is nothing harder Okay, I won't say nothing harder, but it's pretty challenging to keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other, one day in front of the other, when you feel like you're surrounded by a fog. You can't see nothing, you don't understand nothing, you are completely oblivious in that moment, but you know you need to keep moving. How many of us sit down on the side of the road and just feel sorry for ourselves because it's hard? I want to remind you today on this Wednesday that you can do hard things. You've done it before and you can do it again. So I want you to get back up, strap on them boots. Oh, hopefully you're not walking in heels. Strap on your kicks, and let's put one foot in front of the other and keep going. Okay? So, since we're going to be doing that, and our choices are what shape our circumstances. Whew, y'all, that's a tough one to encounter. When you really start to go through, what I've learned is that a lot of people quit on this process because it's uncomfortable. But it's uncomfortable if you don't. So you might as well go ahead and pursue the process and become healthier and whole. Okay? So here I have some questions for you because I'm a coach and we love to ask questions. What are the top 3 values that you claim to live by? For me, that's faith, family, and freedom. Those are my top 3 core values. How are my current choices reflecting or contradicting those values? Anytime I've been absolutely positively miserable since I've learned what my core values are, I can pinpoint which core value is being offended. And that's why I'm in a state of misery or confusion or depression about it. So I'm able to assess because I understand my core values. So then I'm able to figure out what do I need to prioritize. Like, I'll give you a good example. I was in the real estate industry in the DMV some years back. And not that long ago, probably about 7 or 8 years. Yeah. I realized that I wasn't getting enough sleep, that I was always stressed, which dove me deeper into undiagnosed depression because I have been living with undiagnosed depression and anxiety for at least a good decade, if not longer. Um, I had to tie all of that eventually back to the fact that I was working in an industry and doing a job that was not working for me, my mental health, my well being. Um, Fast forward now, years later, here in Central Florida, I am on the brink of entering back into that industry, but in alignment now. And I will know what I stand for, and I will know what boundaries to set, and I will understand who I am in the context of what I'm going into, right? Instead of trying to be everything to everyone and trying to do it everyone's way. Because when you're in alignment, you understand that you're not necessarily supposed to do it everyone's way. You're supposed to do it the way that God intended for you individually. Cool? So sometimes the something else that we're choosing from isn't going to be obvious. I was just telling my daughter the other day, it's like when you receive this epiphany or revelation, it's like so obvious. Why didn't I see this? Because you weren't meant to see it yet. It's like a veil that has to be removed. And a lot of times that veil looks like deception, believing lies. It looks like um, trauma responses, right? We haven't dealt with where we need to heal. And that blocks our vision. It blocks us to be able to see some of the most obvious of things, like how to change our situation or how to better or remove a relationship, right? So that veil, you have to think, if God is not the author of confusion, And it's not his will for me to be burned out all the time or always in fear or always um, in an upheaval about everything. Then what is it that I'm not seeing to remove that from my life? Right? You have to remove your mask. And that's what we're doing here. What is the unmask framework that I use? Unlearn, nurture, master, align, shed, and then know. And if you go to the link in my bio, you can sign up for my newsletter. And every week, I'm providing you all with a short teaching or just, something that I'm thinking about and pertaining to this. And a scripture, a quote, um, some unmasking practices, because this is not just theory, this is praxis. So, what we're looking at is actually unmasking, not just talking about it, because life is passing us by and we're not getting any younger by the second. So, why are we living a life that's not meant to be ours? Why are we living to be someone that is not us? That's why I'm here, to help you to answer those questions. All right. Okay. So, am I still connected, y'all? Okay. That was weird. I've never had that happen before. I'm still new to going live on my computer, y'all. All right. So, let's just go through this real quick. All right, so we are talking about aligning. And so, what our focus on today, I would encourage you to focus on finding peace more than succumbing to pressure, focusing on your values more than what your obligations are from your calendar, from your family, from your work, from your ministry, from your business, whatever that may be. Because when you focus on how do I protect my peace, I protect my peace by placing boundaries. Why do I need to place boundaries? How do I place those boundaries? By setting those guardrails we talked about, your core values. And so then your calendar becomes easier to manage because you know what needs to go and what needs to stay. And you allow yourself the grace and the flexibility to make those decisions. And then we want to talk about obedience when you're aligning, because remember, when we're aligning, we're not just pivoting, we're not just changing. We're getting back in place with who God says that we are and what we're here for. No longer believing the lies and accepting the truths. So we're no longer performing for the optics of it all, y'all. That's the key. No longer performing for the optics of it all. When you're aligning in the unmasking process, you're deciding, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm called to, this is why I'm here. This matters to me. That does not. I no longer care to consume myself with the optics of what other people see or think. That is a surefire way to be free from people pleasing, y'all, and caring about what people think. So I would encourage you, like in Matthew 5:37, let your no be no and let your yes be yes. Okay? So the alignment tune up, real quick. 4 steps. We are going to name a value or divine truth. For example, I will give you one that I say to myself every single morning. It's on my computer, one of my computer backgrounds, so I can just see it. I am not inadequate. I am complete in Christ. His grace is sufficient for me. His power is made perfect in my weakness. I dealt with feeling inadequate the bulk of my adult life to this point. I still feel inadequate many times that I'm before this camera or standing before a group of people or coaching someone one-on-one or just standing in a space with other women. But the truth is that I'm not inadequate, that even when I feel weak, that he makes me strong. So that would be a divine truth. I am not inadequate. Even when I feel weak, he makes me strong. For me, the next three core values. So I already told you faith, family, and freedom. My next three are courage, authenticity, and self-care. So it is courageous for me to step into a space even though I feel inadequate. How do I do that? By standing on the truth that he is made strong in my weakness. Okay? So I've named it. I would encourage you to be mindful of how your body's receiving that. Are you still in a state of stress? Take your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Breathe through it, y'all. Breathe through it. Breathe through it. Cleansing breaths, not just shallow breathing. Deep breaths. In for 4, out for 6. Drop your shoulders, y'all. Listen, I don't know how many times a day I have to tell myself to untense because I'm always like this. And I have to be mindful of it. So I encourage you to pay attention to yourself. Also, I tend to grit my teeth together and my tongue stays at the roof of my mouth. And so I have to make myself several times a day loosen up. So maybe that's for somebody. Loosen up, girl. Loosen up, my man. Receive your truth and loosen up. Stop taking things or yourself so serious. So then you want to take one action to align with that truth. Maybe it's just reminding yourself of this before you step into work. Reminding yourself of this when you take a bathroom break and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, how am I going to get through the rest of this day? And then you want to affirm your decision with a word and an action. Again, you speak the truth to yourself and you act on it in some way. It could be as smallest of things. It could just be walking out that bathroom with a smile on your face and your shoulders back. Easy. Take this with you today. I release what isn't mine and I align with what is. I release what isn't mine and I align with what is. One more time. I release what isn't mine. I align with what is. Last week we talked about it. We have to begin to identify what's ours to carry. Is it yours to carry? Why are you carrying someone else's department issues on your shoulders? Why are you carrying what's going on in someone else's house and your body? As believers, we have to learn how to pray and release, y'all. And if you are not a believer, you still need to recognize what is yours to carry and what is not. So I encourage you for the rest of this week until we meet again next Wednesday morning. If you don't know your core values, figure those out. And then choose your integrity. What is your integrity? You tell me. Your integrity means that you stand firm on what you believe is right. You would think that would look the same for all of us, but it doesn't. It doesn't look the same for all of us. However, if we are all believers in Jesus Christ, we should have similar beliefs. I have a professor at Emory that defines justice as restoring right relationships. And now that I've heard that, I can't unhear it. And it's like everything that I'm looking at, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. We need to restore right relationships between men and women. We need to restore right relationships between women of different ethnicities and races and economic backgrounds. We need to restore right relationships between generations. We need to restore right relationships between right and left. We need to restore right relationships. Oh my gosh, just across the board. Justice is a part of the DNA that we are given through Jesus Christ. So, I want to remind you that when we center our fear, our success, or our image or control more than God's presence and God's abilities, we're going to find ourselves exhausted and unfulfilled. It's time to realign. And you've never ever gone too far because God is our Redeemer. Okay? So you can return and you can re envision. You can be restored back onto the path that was laid for you. Okay? Now, we are almost done. Thank you so much. Again, if you don't know your core values, please, I beg of you, take that nurturing exercise. Give yourself 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week, and figure out what your core values are. Use those as your guardrails to start prioritizing and setting boundaries in your life. Once you do that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to start to uncover or unlearn the lies that you've been fed about who you are, why you're here, and what you're doing. If this spoke to you today, I am asking you to share with someone that would be blessed by it. Okay? The replays are on my Substack, but you will see clips that have come through as well. Again, you can sign up for my newsletter that comes out every week on Monday. You can join Substack for free or for paid. Now, if you want all of the replays of these lives, as well as when I do speaking engagements, I usually upload those replays as well. I would encourage you to join on Substack. My podcast will be back in January. And yeah, we're just going to keep on moving from there. But if you don't remember anything else, remember this. No one's going to do this for you. And it's rare for someone to encourage you to do it. Because what benefits other people for you to no longer believe the lies? All righty. That's it for me. We have unmasked this morning. Let me know how it goes. And I will see y'all next Wednesday. Have a great week.